think one issue that I think sometimes people can fall into in their religious practice is that they can become very idealistic, and they can hold that this must work because this is what my teachers have said, or this is what I've learned. This is how the community does things. So we can do this on a communal scale, and we can do this in our own personal lives. We can start to think this is how it should be. And you try to, everything needs to conform to this ideal in your head, which is nothing problem. We need to have ideals to work towards, but we always have to ask this question that I usually pose to people is, and how's it working for you? Like, do you have this working? Like, for example, I'll give you a perfect example and a very practical. I've been interested in sleep recently and reading on sleep, and sleep's so important to us. And if we're not getting enough sleep, we won't be able to function. Actually, it can be incredibly detrimental to our psychological health, our physical health, our emotional health. Sleep actually is a form of therapy. It helps us process. When we're into sleep, we're processing our emotions and we're resetting so we can move forward for the next day and process all the things that's happening. So if we're not getting enough sleep, it's going to be of detriment to us. Now, when I started posting some of this stuff on Facebook, lots of Muslims are telling me how you can conquer your sleep and you only need 2 hours if you read this dhikr and all these sorts of things. And I said to one guy, he says, if I read this dhikr, I will only need 2 hours sleep. And I said, that's commendable. I'd love to only sleep 2 hours and I'll get so much done. And I said to him, okay, are you able to apply, like, are you able to sustain this over a large period? He went, well, not really. I was doing it for about a week or two, but I got lazy and dropped it. And then I said, well, we've got to ask ourselves, when we have all these ideals of how we'd like to be, does it actually conform to the reality of your life? And is it working for you? And I think that's just a small example. In sleep, we can have all these ideals and expectations of how we'd like to be and what we should be. But if it's not working, we might have to reassess the way that we're understanding these ideals that we have in our mind about how things should be, and allow them to synthesize with the reality that lies before us in our lives. And that's our life. Our life is, we have an ideal we move towards. And at the same time, it's got to be in relationship and have some sort of synergy with the reality that we're living. If it doesn't, we're going to have to reassess the way that we see things.
Particularly if that ideal isn't based in the religion, you know, because you mentioned about this guy who thought we could get by in 2 hours sleep, and actually we don't have that example really as a norm in our tradition whatsoever.
That was even more interesting. Like Abdulaziz Suraqa, a good friend of mine, he gave his input and said that Ibn Qayyim mentions that the Sahaba slept between 6 to 7 hours of sleep plus their siesta. So where has this precedent come? Yes, it's encouraged to pray in the night, but it doesn't say that we're supposed to limit our sleep. And to understand that the Sahaba and the Prophet ﷺ lived in a particular time in a particular place of it, and England, the UK is not Arabia. And so we have to take into consideration our environment and our circumstances, the stresses of today, that of this society that is so obsessed with being productive and just pushing through despite how we're feeling, and just grinning and bearing it. This has a huge, the idea of productivity is like, it puts a huge burden on us. And we're out of sync with the actual motions of how life should be, the natural life. And so people of the past didn't have these stresses. Yes, they had difficult lives. They had downtime and they had times for action, but we're so skewed in this modern age that we don't sometimes we can't find that equilibrium because we don't have the support of community. We don't have it's not lived in that sort of natural way of life. We don't see it. We're so far from it, and that has an impact. So we have to understand the circumstances we're in, and that's so dangerous. When we read for the things of the past, we have to synthesize what we're reading with our lived reality, or we're just living in la la land, to be honest, and it's going to cause us a lot of harm.
Yeah.